4-man vacuum clamps. This here is your basic automobile air conditioner compressor. You don't need a lot of vacuum for clamping. Now there's electric here. There we go. It is very simple. Now, if I get enough for my, that's that. No, well here, this is one pump. And we have a very expensive filter, a regular filter from an automobile gas line. I know this thing should have guards on it. Now this will pull up to 26 inches of vacuum, which is pretty good. This here is, I don't know, 3.5-inch stock aluminum that I drilled out. And this is closed foam, closed cell foam. I can move these anywhere as I want. Just stick this in here, and again, we get into a very expensive filter system. I drill these out and I take my cigarette butts and use the filter. And it works excellent.
Is that nicotine converted?
We don't want to spend money, men. Now, what I usually do is I just clamp this down. And I can configure it any way I want. Most of the work I do is on MDF, so that holds really well. These were the shells that I was going to show on those things. But, and it holds, you can route, do whatever you want with it. Now, this machine I just stuck together real quick to show that you can make a vacuum out of anything. This was a leftover motor, air conditioning pump. Steve gave me this. I made up these fittings because I got to put it on another pump. It's a 1, 2, 3 operation. Now, the other pump over here will be. Well, Steve, yeah. Well, the season hasn't started yet, so he's oblivious. There's going to be a lot of yelling soon now. We'll take this one and put it on the side. I brought all sorts of pumps to show you what you can make them out of. Just about any compressor can be turned into a vacuum pump. Now, those pumps cost you a couple $100.
What's that cost you?
This one here, just the way, you know, I go to shows. I go to a lot of steam engine shows and what have you, and they have the flea markets there. And I scrounge around, and I see what I find. Now, this one here is the one I usually use. And it's the same. This here is a compressor from refrigeration for a deli. It was in a deli in the basement, abandoned. Well, that's what I said. and what I like about them is they're very, you know, they're relatively quiet. So what I do is I put it in my garage. I work outside and stay upwind of the work I'm doing. Now, I do a lot of craft work, and I got to cut out route hundreds of these and other signs. So, then I want to take this. By the way, you got a set of 4. This is your end piece, and you can keep looping these. So let's say you're doing a door, or any big piece. You just screw it onto a piece of plywood, configure it any way you want, and it's going to hold. And then if you have a balance problem, you just take a a piece of 1.5 inches or whatever this 1.25 inches, 5/4, and you know, you balance it.
How'd you make those?
These?
Yeah.
I happen to have a lathe, so I turned them. These are 1/4 inch holes where that accepts the cigarette.
Is that solid stock?
That's solid stock. Solid, but you can use anything. I'm going to show you in a minute. Another one of my favorite materials for using for jigs and so forth is phenolic board. And it's very dense, and it's airtight. And I made up a little block, and I have a sample of that in here. Where's my little block? It's a little block, and it's got, this is a 1/4 inch on the outside and 170 thousandths on the inside. So I stepped it, so you can just put the hose in just so far, and did the same thing over here, and you can attach this onto anything that you want to make a vacuum clamp out of, whatever shape. You just put it in the center, and you take the closed cell foam, which I have somewhere. I had. No, that's not mine. Mine was what? Oh, all right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But you take the closed cell foam, and it doesn't matter. And you can make any shape that you want. You take rubber glue and just join it together, and it holds like a son of a gun. So now I got to make up. I'm sitting there, and I got 200 signs to make, and I got to route them fast. So what I do is I just put 2 clamps on here. That gives me the height. Now the problem is when you're using 5/8 MDF and you take the router bit comes down below the piece. So you're ripping up your router pads all the time, and it's one pain in the neck. Now you're building them up, making another type of jig, adding padding onto it. Didn't work. So I made this up, and you just stick this on here, and it would help if I plugged it in. Now, what I need is to do this fast. So now I just take the router. Well, I don't have to take the router out. And you go around your piece, right? And this is held down. Take the piece off. You have 2 piles. Throw the next one on. 1, 2, 3. Doesn't move, holds tight. I have it, this just happens to bring enough vacuum that I can rip them off fairly easy, and you can go on forever. So that's another pump. I also brought in another one that, so if you also, I do, small signs. So now you can just throw that on one of these, the end one, and you can route it, and the same thing. So you can go as small and as tiny. You can make up your clamps any size you want. You just shape them so that they're shy, stick it on, and away you go. And this has increased my production, I would say probably 50%. That much.
Stick that vacuum hose up through the bottom of a piece of MDF?
You certainly can. You can drill a hole in the side, get in there a ways. You just have to be inside of the closed cell foam. As long as you get inside there. Now the other thing you have to do is I'm selling these very expensive filters because you don't want it. What happens is you actually have a pool as you're routing and you pick it up. MDF kind of holds sawdust, and you pick it up, and now it starts falling in here. So there's where your vacuum's coming from. So it's going to start sucking it in and then go into your pump. So you want to try to avoid that. So with the very special filter, this doesn't happen. You can go, and it's gone. What? I can't tell you. You have to use this special brand. I mean, you guys think you can just buy filters. Hey, I'll just pick them up. No, and I sell them. At $5 a piece.
Packs of cigarettes on it.
So, no, the roadside ones aren't necessarily the best. I'll give you a hint. Where is my bag? I had a bag. A black plastic bag.
Right behind you.
There we go. Gotta stay organized. You also have the optional special carrier for your filters. That cost. I was going to show you, I don't think I have to, but if you wanted to see how much vacuum you're pulling, you got the vacuum gauge. But it'll pull up to 26, sometimes a little better. It'll also, we'll hold pine as long as it's not too cupped. That's where you run into problems with vacuum clamping. Now, I don't even know, this piece here I hand planed. It's the shelf for one of those cabinets. By the way, I have a beautiful cabinet back there for sale, powder coated, made for coffee cans. See this one here. Oh. May not work because it's got it. It's sometimes because this isn't, you know, it's not going to evacuate a lot of air. Now Steve's going to show you airbag veneering, and that would take you a long time. But you could take a vacuum cleaner, pull out most of the air, and then just let this run. You got to feel your way because each one is a little different. Now we got Big Bertha here, which I haven't really played with yet. I got this up in Pennsylvania. And this is a compressor off a tractor trailer. And I have a feeling it would give you tremendous vacuum suction because you can hear it popping like crazy. It's 2 cylinders. It's got an oil bath. And I don't know that much about them, but we got an awful lot of ports. I have to put a motor on it and figure out exactly how this thing works, but I know I get vacuum out of it. And that was just about a throwaway. So it was a little frozen, got it loose, put a lubrication in it, and we're fine. And then I have the other one, this here, I got up at Kent tractor show, and it's a little vane pump. And this works, it's nice and quiet, and it pulls nice vacuum. And it's got a big filter on it. I just reversed it, and away it goes. This was used for aerating a pond. So if you keep your eye open, it's all available and it costs you next to nothing.